everybody? Welcome back to the Leveled Up Life podcast. It's Branamier, Courtney, as always, with my main man, Paul McClain.
Good to be here with you, bro.
In the Leveled Up Life studio, we got Bassam on the ones and twos. Come on, it's going to be a good day. To have a good day. Listen, our heart's desire is to help you level up your life in all the areas that matter most to us: faith, family, fitness, finance, franchise. And hopefully by now, if you've been listening for long enough, they begin to matter to you. Listen, we don't want you to just build a good life. We want you to build a great life, a life that blesses people, a life that honors God, a life that you can go out and actually make a difference in the world. And listen, it's if you're listening to this, you probably just celebrated Thanksgiving. And so it's a week of gratitude. It's a week of Thanksgiving. And so we want to talk a little bit about that today, about how to live a generous life. I think there's a lot of commonalities among successful people, Paul, and you've seen this. And one of the characteristics of highly successful people that make a massive impact is, man, they're all generous. Yeah. It's like you very rarely see, rich people or wealthy people or just people of influence who are super stingy or greedy. I'm sure they're out there, right? I'm sure you run into them, but for the most part, man, if you just pull like the top characteristics of highly successful influential people, you'll probably see, man, they're highly generous, and it's not just about money. And so it's about many other things. So we'll dive into that, where I've seen you show this firsthand in the way you live and the way you treat people and the way you honor and the way you give. And so I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit when it comes to generosity and how that can help us level up and actually get better. Because I think a lot of us, man, we're raised to think like, man, once we get stuff, we keep stuff. Yeah. Like it's almost like the American culture, right? It's like, hey, you build something or you work for something or you achieve something and you keep it for you. Like you did this, you worked for this, you grinded for this. And so you keep what you got. But I think over time, I think people have to learn this mentality. Like, no, we're just a vessel. Like we're men of faith. And so it's like, man, we're a vessel to be used by God. So what we get, man, we're trying to give. Yeah. And so maybe talk about that a little bit. How can people level up their life by living a generous life?
Yeah, I think it's great topic. I believe that a lot of you guys experience this on Thanksgiving, like how you just have this kind of sense of fulfillment when you're spending time just having conversations, you're pouring into people. And it's one of those days that like, it kind of gets our mind to be reminded or shift to say, hey, this day signifies Thanksgiving. Yeah. So therefore I will be thankful. It's kind of like New Year's, day, like January 1st. It kind of signifies like New Year's resolution. Yeah. Like just that day alone is kind of like the national reset button, right? Let me pause and evaluate. It's almost like, let me do the thing I truly should have been doing every day or every week. Right. And I feel like Thanksgiving a lot of times is that reminder, like this is something we should do every day. Why? Well, because for one, if you want to live a fulfilled life, that's where fulfillment comes. Because I've met rich people that are very stingy and greedy, but they're not fulfilled. Yeah. So if the commonality is fulfillment, it's they're generous, right? Because like that's where we're created in the image and likeness of God. You said this on Sunday, man. I thought it was so well. Like, what did God do? He gave His only begotten Son, and so it's a great testament. And if you look at how many times the word give, for those that read the Bible, like how many times give is in the Bible, right. That word is more in the Bible than almost every single word in the Bible. I think it's even more in the Bible than the word love. Like it's significant. It's like thousands of times. Why? Because God's a giver. And if we're creating His image, He knows that if we do what He does, we're going to have fulfillment. And so I think the first thing is like, why? The question is, why does it bring fulfillment? Yeah. Well, I think on the other side of it, if we're greedy and we're not generous, and that could be with your time. This is not just money. It could be with, maybe you've gone through some things in your life, right? Maybe you've broken an addiction. Well, generosity is looking back and saying, who's a former version of me that's walking through that? Can I go grab some coffee with them and be a place of hope and inspiration for them? Generosity could be resources. It could be connecting. Like I feel like Jeff Osborne is a very generous person. He's never given me $20, right? It wasn't like, hey bro, here's $20, go buy yourself a coffee. But he's given us some pretty great connections that have brought great value into our life. In the sense that last night I was messaging a guy that he's had great success in many areas of his life. He's steps above where I want to go. And that relationship is cultivated from an environment, a meeting I don't get into if Jeff doesn't connect. Yeah. And so like that's generous. He's intentionally saying like, who does Paul not know, if he did know, would help level up his life? And then who would so generosity comes in different ways, but I believe that what it does all the time is it breaks scarcity.
Very good.
Like I think that scarcity is really the opposite of an abundant life. And if if Christ says, I came to give you life more abundantly, well, what's the opposite of abundance? It's lack and scarcity. Well, what triggers scarcity and lack? A lack of generosity.
So good.
And so I think it just helps you identify yourself, like you said that. And what you said before, like the generous person, the world.
The world of the generous gets larger and larger. Yeah. But the world of the stingy gets smaller and smaller. And so it's the great paradox of life, right? The more I give, the more I receive. But the more I keep, the less I receive, right? And so I think number one, like generosity, what it begins to do is expand your identity. And so it's this mindset that, man, I'm generous because I know I have the ability to get more. And so I begin to see myself in a different way. And I think like in so many areas of life, it's how you see yourself. It's like what you just told Bassam right now. Like, listen, you'll attract who you become. And so if you see yourself as a highly successful, generous person that adds value to people, then you'll be generous, not just with your money, but you'll be more generous with your words, with your time, with your talent, with your treasure, with your resource, with your friend circle, like all the different stuff. Why? Because you see yourself the way Christ created you to be, which is a person, like you just said, that has more than enough, that's blessed to be a blessing, that goes above and beyond. And so number one, I think you got to be generous. And maybe people didn't grow up with the right identity of themselves, which is, I think, is another big reason they're not generous. Yeah. Right? It's because, like, man, my family's always struggled. We've always been this way. We've always been in survival mode. Therefore, why would I give? And not even knowing you've pushed away blessings. Yeah, you've pushed away opportunity. Yeah, you block the blessings of God. Or people see you and they're like, well, I don't know if I should open up the opportunity for them because I don't know if they're the right person for that. Therefore, I'm not going to give them. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And so you got to begin to see yourself right. And that just starts with identity, not necessarily behavior. When you begin to see yourself right, then you begin to think right, which leads to actions, right? And so the more you see yourself as someone that God can trust with resource, then the more I believe God will begin to give you those resources. And the Bible says if you're faithful with little things, you'll be faithful with much. Yeah. And so I think a lot of people have this mindset that, man, if I had more, I would give more. Well, maybe, but maybe not.
I think you said it right. It's harder to give when you've got more.
It's much harder to give when you got more. It's like you get a massive payout, and you're like,
tied 10%.
10% of that's a lot more. Yeah,
$100.
No, it ain't $100. It's a lot more. And so, but if you've done the right things, right? If you've been faithful with little, then it's just muscle memory at that point. And so you can be generous, but it starts with identity.
Hey, I just got to say something because you said it's so good, dude. Like it really is a paradox.
Yeah.
And like we should do a podcast on the greatest paradoxes that can level up your life because like the paradox is like what you think isn't and what you think isn't is. And once you kind of get exposed to it, well, now you can actually, not let that paradox hold you back, right? Because the paradox, that's what it is in its nature. Like, it doesn't really make sense up front. You think, like, if I give, like, I'm going to have less because I'm giving. But it's a paradox, And I love that because it's the truth. It's like, what paradox is holding you back? I feel like for a lot, it is how you were raised, and you get brought up with this, like, you said it like, on Sunday, like this mine, right? And I love that French fry analogy. I can't remember who I heard they give some depth to it. It's like, you go to the store, you go to McDonald's and you buy the fries. And it's like, well, give me some fries. And the kid's like, I don't want to give you the fries. Like, these are my fries. And as a dad, you're thinking like, dude, these ain't your fries. Right. I drove you here, bought the fries, and I have the ability to take all your fries away, or I have the ability to go, buy you 100, times the amount of fries I've got and just give them to you. Like, I'm the full owner of these fries. I can give, take, and it's the same thing. Once we understand, like, we're under the stewardship and it's not ours, we're just being, called to be stewards and be vessels for it. Well, then it kind of takes the weight off, man. Like, you don't have to be. It's actually a freeing thing when you start giving. It becomes a lot more freeing because you start realizing that it ain't mine. I don't have to control it.
Yeah.
I'm just called to do what I'm called to do, which was be as generous as I possibly can be. And that's always going to come back. It's like you can't outgive God. Why? Because he's the fry giver. He's the one that gave the fries, right?
So
like,
good.
It's all his. And
well, that's why I think it's more of, generosity is more of a characteristic than it is an action. It's like taking on this trait that, man, I'm a generous person. That's just who I am. And so I look for opportunities to be generous. And when you see yourself as a steward and not an owner, it then, like you said, frees you from the mentality that you had to hold on to something. So it's like this could be anything. I think I think when you're generous, it creates a lot of joy for you. It creates a lot of opportunity for other people. I think when you're generous, it does something on the inside of you. Like Jesus said, I didn't come to be served. I came to serve. What is he trying to teach? Like we're talking about paradoxes. He's trying to teach that when you give something, it's much better to give than to receive. It's much better to be generous to people than to receive something great. And so I think if you can take on the mentality of whatever I have, whether it's my God-given ability to articulate my words, my resource, my talent, my money, my leads, right? If you're running a business, whatever it is, if I can just have the mentality that, like, man, I can get more and I can bless people, then more is just going to come your way. It magnetizes the blessings and the opportunities that come your way. And so I think there's a scripture in Proverbs that says, those who sow sparingly reap sparingly, but those who give generously will reap generously. And I just think, man, when you could live life open-handed, you create space for God to use you. You create space for not only for you to bless God, but bless His people, right? And so, and this could be translated into any area of life. Like, man, if you want to have a healthy relationship and loving relationship with your wife, then serve, then give, then give. And generosity is giving more than what's required. Yeah, it's going above and beyond. It's giving first. It's not looking around going, all right, is everyone else giving? All right, let me give. I love when we were in Dominican Republic and we were sitting around that table, and we were like, hey, what's the needs of the house? And one of the pastors, I forget his name, is like, hey, we need an air conditioning. You know, we're praying for it, we're believing for it, we're going to raise money for it. It's going to take probably 2 years. And I just love that Pastor Eli was like, how much does it cost? It's like $5,000. And he just looked around, was like, done. Yeah. You know, that's just like a generous heart. He wasn't like, well, let me call the church, let me see what's going on. He's like, we'll figure it out. It's just this mentality, this heart. Like I mean, there's so many examples we can give. Yeah. I'm sure, especially in even within Pinnacle, like there's just so many. Like I'm thinking about Gabe when he was in here on the podcast a couple months ago. We were just talking. He's like, dude, you want to do an orphanage with me? Like, just a heart to give. It's just a mentality. It's just, man, we're blessed to give. And so I think if you want to level up, you got to, number one, start seeing yourself as a generous person in every area of life. And so I don't know. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I would say, you know, a great practical thing that we can give you guys right now is come up with an affirmation that just says, I'm a generous person. I love to give. I live an abundant life. Because as you're speaking, I'm thinking, like, there's seasons of where you can go from being generous to not. Yeah. And it's like anything in life. Like, you know, all of a sudden, if you're not really focused on some of these characteristics that truly make a massive impact and difference and break strongholds and break lack mindset and broke mindset and all those things, like, man, it creeps in, right? You could be generous and all of a sudden you're like, I think about, you know, your relationship, you know, with my spouse. I've been married for 18 years. I have to intentionally, like, I have affirmations to remind myself, like, who I am, my identity in this relationship and what I'm called to do. Or it's very easy to be focused on the last conversation, argument, thought, whatever, and now I'm pulled out of my identity and I'm pulled into my flesh and just behaving based off how I feel. Yeah, that's good. And so I think a great thing that'll help everybody is just to have that affirmation. It's one of the affirmations I've got in my morning affirmations I read every morning, which is, I'm a generous person. I love to give. I get to give. I live an abundant life. Because it reminds me as I step into my day, it's not about me, because it's easy to get pulled into that. We're all human beings, right? You know, you could have a massive week and great success. You start reading your press clippings, and all of a sudden, before you know it, it's about you, not them. And if it's about you, you're going to be greedy and stingy because it's about you. And that's not what we're created to do. We're created to love and serve our neighbor, right? And Very good. I mean, I think that it's an affirmation is great to write down. Point two, like you said, generosity magnetizes blessing, opportunity. The one thing I think about is this. You know, it's kind of like when, you can open up an apple and see how many seeds are in an apple. but you can't open up a seed and see how many apples are in the seed.
Well, I was preaching, bro.
And so you think about it, like a lot of times somebody,
so good.
They eat the seed that God's given them.
Jeez.
And opposed to planting it. So you got fed for a second, but it probably made you sick.
Yeah.
Because you're not called to eat a seed, you're called to eat an apple. And so you eat your seeds because you're greedy and it's just about me.
Yeah.
And it actually maybe gave you a little bit of nourishment, but you feel sick to your stomach. And I think a lot of times when I found myself, like when it's about me and what can I do and what can I get and I feel sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
So maybe I went out and did X, Y, Z, I consumed it. But you're never going to feel good about consuming the seed that God's called you to plant. But when you plant the seed, now all of a sudden it produces apples that you never could have thought or imagined. It's more than you expected, because how can all these apples come from one seed? Well, that's the multiplication part. I plant this seed, right? God will water it and do what he can do if you do what you're called to do, right? It's like I think about, in Scripture where you have the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. And, Jesus, what does he do? He gives thanks to God first for what he does have, and then he takes it, it's broken and passed out.
Yeah.
God does a multiplication, but Jesus did what he could do, which was to thank God for what he had, and not take on this approach of like, we don't have enough. Well, you don't know how many apples are in the seed.
So good.
And you don't know how many loaves are in the bread once you start breaking them. Let God do what he could do. But then all of a sudden, what you don't realize is in the multiplication is that now that seed becomes a tree, and now you've got enough apples to share out and hand out to your friends and your family. And so you never know what the seed can produce. But we're so focused on times, I feel like, breaking open the apple and saying, well, how many seeds do I have?
Yeah.
Well, don't focus on that. It's how many apples are in the seed.
Yeah.
Well,
man, I love that analogy, because the seed can never the seed can never produce anything in your hand. Yeah. Right, even just the apple, like, man, the apple is fruit. Like, there's fruit that comes to our life, but within every piece of fruit is a seed. And so it's up to you to say, okay, this portion is fruit, right? This portion is my blessing, but within my blessing, man, there's a seed of blessing, and I could either keep it to myself, which is not going to do anything, or I can take that seed and I can sow it into something that will produce a great harvest. And I talked about this yesterday, man. Generosity has to be generational. Like, that's what we're talking about, the multiplying effect, giving beyond ourselves, taking what we've been giving, blessing it, breaking it, and giving it to the next generation, because, man, your generosity is a multiplier. You can impress people with your success, but you impact generations by being generous towards them. And so I love this quote, your kids don't become who you tell them to be, they become who they watch you be. And so if you want to raise generous kids, man, you got to be generous yourself. Yeah. If you want, if you want to be blessed, you got to be a blessing. And so I just think that as we take on this mentality of generosity, because the truth is, you may be sowing seed and people may eat the fruit of the seed that you'll never meet. Yeah. Right. And so it's getting beyond yourself. It's making a lasting impact. It's doing things now in the moment that may not feel good, which that's called sacrifice. What's the greatest sacrifice of all time? Like Jesus hanging on a cross for a bunch of sinners who didn't even love him back. Yeah. And so in light of that sacrifice, it makes it easy for us to give. And but when we can take on the mentality, like, I love your affirmations, like, I'm a giver, I'm a generous person, I'm blessed to be a blessing, I live an abundant life. I think when you can get beyond yourself and sow into the next generation, because, man, we're sitting here, like, we're eating the fruit of someone else's seed. Yeah. Right. And hopefully our kids will eat the fruit of our seed. They are eating it, and their kids and their kids. And even within the business, it's like, man, are you building something that's going to last beyond you? And if you're only thinking about the fruit of right now, you won't have harvest for tomorrow. Yeah. Right. So there's a certain amount of seed that every farmer has to keep at the end of the year in order to reproduce for next year's results.
I love that. Well, we're gonna make this 3 points, not 5 points.
Let's go.
And we're gonna tie in the last point, which goes exactly what you're saying, Brian. Because I was looking at the 5. I think this one is one that plays into what you're talking about. And I think it's very, very important. And it's generosity builds legacy, and it's a multiplier impact. I think this is so essential, man, because I think oftentimes, we've got goals, right? We want to go out there and accomplish X, Y, Z. These bag of reasons. I want to go out and get to a place of financial freedom. I want to be this kind of, weight class, fit, this body weight, whatever it is, right? I want to have this house, live here, drive this. all these goals, which are great. There's external, there's internal, all these different goals you've got. But I believe one of the best goals we can have, if we're thinking about like generations and leaving our family better off, our kids better off. It's not like, well, we're just going to leave them financially. It's not just like, well, I've got a great trust fund. I've got, this house is going to go here. I've got this role. Like, okay, that's okay, right? But I believe starting to really think about what values do I want to leave to my family. And I remember I heard this from Dave Anderson. It really hit me hard because it's like, when you think about your why or reasons of why go sacrifice, why pay the price to go, you think about external things most of the time. And some of the things that are maybe like you want to bless your family, you want to give back to the church. There's a lot of things that you can do. But really saying like, what value does my family not have? If they did have, it would change everything. And for a lot of people, it could be like, man, my family's always kind of just survived. They've always kind of worked 9-to-5 job, never were really givers. Because you could obviously sit back and think, like, was my parents really givers? Were they generous? Not just like they had $1 million, so they were given, but like, did they give their time, their resources, their energy, their love? Did they give, like, were they givers? And I think it's one of those things where if you sit back and say, it ain't about the money. It's like the woman with the two mites. Like,
coins,
it wasn't like she gave it, but she was like her kids they knew what she had. And so they knew she was a giver. It wasn't just Jesus that was like, oh, she gave more than, like, her family knew her situation. And they knew that she was a giver. And I think that if you can sit back, and for me, it's always like, what values do I need to get better at because I want to leave these when I'm gone?
Very good.
Is it discipline? Is it a person of faith that, like, when I go, my back's against the wall, they know where I go to. They know where I get my strength from. Is it a person of generosity? Is it a person of positivity where, like, maybe my family was riddled, and maybe this is actually true, and I'm just disclosing it now, but maybe just a lot of negativity, woe is me, like, complaining and blaming and justifying, and me being aware of that by stopping and reflecting and saying, no, that's not going to be
Very
me.
good.
And my kids, I'm going to be the one that changes that generational, curse, so to speak, of having that lack of value there. And I'm going to intentionally be a positive person. I'm going to have affirmations. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to put in our values. I'm going to remind my kids of it. I'm going to ask them, what did you love today? What was the good in it? All these different things. Now that I'm thinking about it, we're really in place to kind of shift a value that maybe I wasn't exposed to and my family didn't have.
Very good.
And it would have been passed on if I didn't make the decision to make that a motivating factor.
So good. Yeah, it's like it's what culture are you cultivating within your house, within your home, within your church, within your business? Like, what are the values that you want to pass on? And if you don't see them now, the good news is you can create them now. You don't have to wait. You don't have to like wait for the magic pill to come. Like, no, you can begin working on these things now. One of those for us, man, we're going to be a house of generosity, not only in my house personally, but in our church and in the business, man. We want to be generous people with our time, talent, treasure, and resources. So I hope this podcast blessed people. It certainly blessed me, reminded me of all the blessings that have come my way. And I'm not just blessed to be blessed. I'm blessed to be a blessing. So
amen, man. Well, guys, hey, go out there, make it a big week. Share this with somebody. If you're in your mind, you're thinking, like, who's a stingy person that needs to hear this, man? Make sure to share with them. Even the generous, hey, they need to be reminded about how great of a value this is. But I believe this would bless anybody. So make sure to share it, like, subscribe. Our goal and desire, like Brian said, is every week to bring you some great value. So, guys, we love you. Make it a big week, and we'll talk to you next week. God bless you guys.